University of Sao Paulo.
Live, ok.
Ok,
Boa noite.
we're there.
Boa noite a todos. Eu peço desculpas pelo atraso dessa mesa. A gente estava tendo problemas técnicos aqui com os slides. Eu vou fazer uma pequena introdução aqui em português e em seguida faço a apresentação do nosso convidado. Então, eu gostaria de dar boa noite a todos e dar as boas-vindas para essa última sessão de conferência da Jornada de Estudos Linguísticos, mas também desse grande evento que nós tivemos de 4 semanas aqui no Programa de Pós-Graduação em Estudos de Linguagem da Universidade Federal Fluminense em Niterói. Eu sou a professora Luciana Sanches Mendes, eu sou professora do programa e gostaria de agradecer a todos que estão aqui para essa sessão que a gente intitulou Theoretical Issues and Linguistic Diversity. Como esse é o último evento dessas 4 semanas, no final da fala do professor Maldonado, nós vamos ter uma sessão de encerramento com a professora Silmara de la Silva e com o professor Ivo do Rosário. And then I'm going to introduce Professor Ricardo Maldonado. On behalf of the organizing committee of GEL, I especially thank the professor invited for this session. Professor Ricardo Maldonado is a professor of Universidad Nacional Autónoma de México. His research is focused on cognitive linguistics, discourse markers, language acquisition, and semantics and pragmatics in Spanish and indigenous languages spoken in Mexico. If you are interested in this last topic, especially, I strongly recommend to watch his presentation on evidentials on the page of Instituto de Investigaciones Filológicas, UNAM, on YouTube. It is really, really nice. So thank you very much, Professor Maldonado, for accepting our invitation, for being here today with us. I will conduct the discussion after the talk. You can leave your questions and comments on the chat. I hope you all enjoy the talk and the discussion of the session. E vocês podem deixar as perguntas em português, a gente pode tentar traduzir aqui para o professor Ricardo. So, thank you again, Professor.
My pleasure. Okay, and now we have the presentation. Hello, everybody. I cannot see anybody but Luciana. Please, I didn't expect all these technical issues, yet we're going to make all of us efforts. In fact, it was all planned for you to tell me things, to answer to questions. And obviously, this is apparently not going to happen. And so I will be providing the answers boringly, which is ugly. But the purpose is to use possession as a way to understand how language is not just a list of words and a set of rules, but a whole view towards the world. I don't know how to say. Yeah, there you go. Good. So do project it and let's move on. So the being in there you go. Okay, go to the next. I'm just going to move my finger so that we don't. So the first question is what it is. What is it to learn a language? And I would like to say that learning a language is learning to classify, to see the world. Keep going. You can, Luciana, you can, because it's line by line. It's ugly. You're going to hate it. So learning a language is to see the world in alternative ways. If you learn a language, you don't only learn words, but you see a different interpretation of the world. So cognitive linguistics is very concerned about the ways the cognition is related to grammar, to language, and keep going because it's full of lines. It's a usage-based model. So in other words, it really tackles the problem of how people use the language more than having previous rules. What you have are interpretations of the world which happen to permeate language. And so thus cognition and language are linked very strongly. And one thing we don't have is separate modules. In fact, what happens is that syntax, semantics, and pragmatics are really connected very strongly. And they're connected through cognition. So I'm going to give you a few examples of that. Crucially, for what we're doing today, we're going to say that when we tackle semantics, when we tackle meaning, we say that meaning is 3 levels. Keep going. So one level is just a referential content. So if you say table, you think about a little thing that is in the world. But crucially, that's not all. You also have the notion of dominion that I will work on a little bit right now. And then the notion of imagery, which is the way we construct the world. So in semantics, you have the meaning, and then the context where things happen, and then the way you actually look at things. And that's what gets permeated into grammars. Go ahead. So here is, go ahead, Luciana. Excellent, more. Oh, oops. All right, go back one. There you go. What do you see there? Imagine, I can hear you right here very well. I can see that you're saying that it's a chandelier, right? It is a chandelier. Now go to the next one. This is also a chandelier, except that it has a star there behind, which is a David star. And just by having that context, the interpretation of the chandelier is absolutely different. So the chandelier first one, hit once, is related more to Christianity. That's the kind of chandelier you would see in the altar. And that's related to pain and sorrow, which is related to the way we see, we or people see the relation with God. So there is pain and all that. But when you see the next one, I hope everybody agrees that having the star, it brings in the idea of Judaism. And of course, that brings the idea of Hanukkah. And Hanukkah is a nice festivity. You know, they give with the main candle, they light the candle, and each day they light a candle. It takes all those days there, 9, and you give a present to the child. So the child is very happy. Hanukkah is a very happy festivity, as opposed to things that are not as happy. So it depends. And then you play, take one, take the perinola, the, I don't know how to say that, do you know that thing? That you play, you take one. So it's a very festive kind of thing, which is related to Hanukkah, and which is not what is related to Christianity. So context, there is no way a word can be seen as a word separate, but it's always the case that the word is in the context, and the context activates all these notions that go together with it. So that's dominion. You can hit once. Dominion is what Luciana is about to give, is that. These people have talked about frames and ICNs and scripts and fault models. You can use whichever notion you want, but the idea is that a word is always in the context, and the context brings in all these notions. Next, please. You can see it was very interactive. What do you see there? Do you see a road? Yes, you do see a road. Is it going up or down? I don't know. Next, please. So here you have 2 sentences. These roads splits in Rio, or these roads merge in Rio, right? So it's a matter of perspective. If you are there, good, you did well, you did excellent. If you are there, which sentence would you choose? Of course, you would have to choose that these roads merge in Rio, right? But if you hit once more, And another, there you go. Now you're in the other side. Imagine how many hours it took me to do that. So now you have to choose sentence one because the perspective, from that perspective, the road splits, right? So meaning is not equated with reference and that's it, but with the dominion and then with the way we construct, with perspective, the way we construct things. Keep going. Thank you. Okay, what is possession? Well, possession is a very complex thing, really complex. You can't imagine, but it has two participants, which is kind of good. One more. Those two participants, one operates as the reference point. So what the possessor is the reference point to locate the other thing. So see, if you say Luciana's pen, Luciana works as a reference point for the pen. Okay, keep going, because there is more. Prototypically, Luciana controls the pen. Keep going. You're going to be working a lot, Luciana. You are my participant because I can't see anybody else. And normally what happens is that the element that is marked with the possessive marker is the element being possessed. Okay, keep going. What is interesting is that languages vary dramatically in the way they use possession. That's what is fun, and that's why I'm here. Let's talk about diversity. Okay, so you can say, well, English and Spanish are exactly the same. You can say mi coche, in my car, same thing, right? Keep going. And then you say my hand hurts, but you cannot say in English the hand hurts. So you have to have the possessive there. Keep going. You cannot say in Spanish, duele mi mano. You cannot say duele la mano. So mi would be the possessive. I know you understand because Portuguese and Spanish are very close. Keep going. In Spanish, you would have to say me duele la mano. And the possessor is actually a dative pronoun. And mano doesn't have, oh, look, Portuguese is there. Me doy a mão is the way we would say it, and you have the dative me, and notice that you don't have a possessive on mão. So we and English speakers are very different. We're civilized. When we talk about possession, we talk about us as owners, and we project what we feel that the hand is, but we don't say the hand hurts. Keep going, keep going. So you can say tequila makes my stomach sick. That's what they say in English. So it's like the stomach is independent from you. You cannot say tequila makes the stomach sick. It's just wrong. Keep going. And then you can, but in Spanish, you will have to say tequila hurts me, right? That's what you would say, me hace daño. And I think in Portuguese, we have the same. Keep going. And then you can say my hand doesn't move in English. So you hit your hand and then you say my hand doesn't move. Can you say that in Spanish? No puedo. No, you can't. You have to say yo. The subject cannot move the hand. So the big guy is the important one, not the hand. The hand is just, so interestingly, you cannot say mi mano no se mueve. One more, please. Yeah, you would say, la mano se mueve, but that would be very scary, wouldn't it? If all of a sudden the hand starts moving around, there is something wrong. There means somebody, it's a weird thing. So, and then the next one, I don't think, do I have? No, okay. So it's obvious that we have very different views with respect to how things can be possessed. And it so happens that in English, we use the possessive on the thing being possessed, and we don't do that. So we talk about ourselves and things happening within us, and I think that's true also for Portuguese. I'm going to talk, have you visit a language, Huastec, which is, hit once more. Huastecs are Mayan speakers. Now, the Maya live down here, where you see Merida and all those things. So they went all the way south, but the Huastecs were excellent warriors, and these guys could stay in the middle of the country, but they stay isolated. Keep going, keep going. I'm gonna go. That's the kind of nature you see. It looks like we are in Brazil, right? It's just beautiful. Keep going. And this is the way they look. Aren't they pretty? Look at them, she's beautiful. Now, of course, this is a festivity custom. Keep going. I'm just introducing you, and that's the way they dance. Keep going. I'm gonna keep going. Can you keep going? That's all right. Okay, you're gonna, let's see if we can see a little bit. Hit the arrow. If we can see the triangle and we can see a little bit of that. Yeah, this is, okay, it's gonna take a little while, but what I wanted you to see them dance. And it's a drum card. And I think, so the drunker is actually dancing his own. Keep going. Let's go. I just wanted to show a real live kind of thing. Okay, go to the next. No. Hit the next. Luciana, go. Yeah. Let's go to the next one. Thank you. Okay, so what's the correlation? They're happy.
I'm sorry, I can't see you.
That's you can't see me?
No.
Okay. I'll be clearer. All right. This is just to introduce the language. So in this language, you have beautiful contrast between p and p, t and t, k and k, ta and ta, a and a. They have, and then they have long and short vowels, and it's just beautiful. Keep going. Okay. Now I'm gonna make you I don't know if you are a linguist, but I'm gonna make you linguist in no time. This is for you to pronounce. That was you were supposed to pronounce this, which is chick chick. All right, sounds nice, right? Chick chick. Okay, and that's rattle. Okay, next. If you have the al or the il ending, you have a possessive form. So to say my rattle, thank you. That's right. The al ending marks that the rattle is you. And then where it says A1, that's the ergative first person. So that would be I rattle my. Okay, that's the way you do it in that language. Okay, keep going. Okay. The tradition when you analyze possession, you say that alienable things, such as the pen, the rattle, your microphone, whatever you use, those things should take a possessive. But if they belong to you, if they are inalienable, like your mother, you cannot put the possessive. Okay, you cannot use it. So that's perfect. And that's what happens in Huastec. Now, the next, please. Okay, there are problems because mother cannot take possessive, but son can take possessive. There is something very wrong about these guys. Maybe because they drink a lot. It's very probable. Now, next. Now, notice that cane, the cane you use to help you walk, doesn't take il. It should take il, but it doesn't. So that's a problem. Maybe there is something more than just alienable and inalienable. Keep going. Yeah, you're doing fine. Yeah. That way I won't take too long. Okay, this is just for you to see that there is a il. So if you say Juan's dog, the il is marking pico, and then Nahuan would be John's, who is the possessor. Okay, keep going. I'm more interested. So our question is, why is it, keep going. Why is it that we have a contrast between no marker and the il suffix? Keep going. And I'm going to propose to you that if the relationship with the object is intrinsic, you will not use any possessive marker. But if the relation is extrinsic, you will use il. Now, the question is, how can we tell? That's a cultural thing. And what I'm going to tell you is that possessives mark this cultural contrast. Okay, so this is your ear, and notice that if you say your ear is plugged, there is no ill, and if you try to put ill like in 9, it's wrong. So your ear is your ear, you don't put anything. Keep going. That's with body parts, you don't put ill. Okay, this is your strength, and of course, you don't have. So you have chap, which is strength, that's my strength, but you don't put ill because it's already part of you. Keep going. Okay, and this is the stool leg. Of course, that's the stool, there's the bench, there is the table, there's the leg. Whole part relationships don't take ill. All right, keep going. So far, so good. It makes sense. Deer meat, so the meat of the deer, they don't take that either. Interesting. Keep going. So that's part of it. Of course, you don't. Keep going. Now, isn't that funny? Look, my honey, if you had, this is my honey, you would say with il, which is now al, because there is a previous e vowel, so it becomes a. Okay, so that's a dissimilation rule. All right. Now, interesting, the honeybee should not take il, right? It shouldn't, because it's part of, it's the bee's honey. It shouldn't take. However, it does take il. So the deer of the meat doesn't take il, but the honey of the bee does take il. Keep going. So I'm making you think a little. I said, why do they do it? My lard, the fat thing that you buy and you put in the can and you cook with, of course, takes il. But keep going. Okay, but if you want to say the body, my fat, the one that I have here, that I'm very fat, that doesn't take il, which makes sense. Keep going. Okay, so it so happens, so the hypothesis would be, I wanted you to do that, but I can't hear you, I can't see you, I don't know if you exist, actually. It's very ugly to be in this situation. But of course, what is kind of interesting is that the honey is separable from the bee. And once you have that as a separate entity, then you can have the il, even though the honey comes from the bee. The fact that it can be individuated allows for Wastek to put the il marker. Okay? Keep going. Now we're ready for the next one. I wanted you to find this out, and here I am, giving you the whole boring story. I'm sorry, that's ugly. So if you have a cold, you simply cannot put il, and interesting enough, you see a B1 instead of an A1. So this is a negative language. All the possessives are marked with the A forms, but when you say I have a cold, it takes the B form. In other words, it doesn't take possessive at all. Okay? And then if you try to, oops. Oh, okay. You went already there? That's fine. Don't you think it's interesting that you say my smallpox, and with that you do have il? So those things that you can see on your skin, they take possessive. Keep going. Okay. The pus, isn't it? This is beautiful. If you ever work on possessive, you're going to love it, because you get all the dirtiest things you can imagine to get the right data. My pus, so this is infected, okay? You probably can't see me. So this is infected. There is a lot of pus. I can say my pus, and it does take il. Okay, keep going. All right, if I spit, and you say, here it is, and you see the spit and it's on the floor, you can still say my spit, and it does take il. And now, ladies and gentlemen, have you ever seen kids? They always run with snot here, with mucus, right? And they're there. Well, that doesn't take il. So the spit does take il. The pus take il. The smallpox take il, but not the running nose. That doesn't take il. All right? That's just a question. Why? Keep going. Okay. Yes, next one, please. All right. Emotions, sadness, of course. Sadness doesn't take ill. And notice that there is something funny. Instead of having il, there is this verb, which is ko'ol, which means have, okay? So instead of saying that you are sad or that you have to say that you have sorrow. That's what you're saying. So the verb ko'ol is used when you pass through some emotion, okay? Why is that? We will see in a minute. But you cannot say my sadness, okay? However, if you put the il on te'il, back to tepil. There, thank you. If you put il, it's just a long vowel, right? So it's an e, and then it is an ill thing. There is a possessive marker. It doesn't mean my sadness. It means my obligations, my dues, those horrible things we have to do. Those can take, so the sadness doesn't, but the things we have to do are that's a nice extension in Wastic. So, because doing stuff is ugly. It's very sad to have to work. So it's so sad that you can put a possessive on those things. Okay, we're ready for the next one. Now, deafness does take ill. Isn't that amazing? It's very strange. So the il is right there. Tachuntalab, the deafness that comes from the outside, does take il. But if you have just a tachuntalab, tachuntal, alawa, that means that you're without the il. It means that you're stubborn. You're of course you're deaf. You don't listen, but with il, you don't listen to the exterior, and without il is your inner representation. Keep going. And okay, this is interesting. Look at that. That's a cigarette. So if you say my cigarette, my is cigarette. That's tobacco. All right, and you say my cigarette, and that doesn't take il. Oh, it does. It does. When it's in the box, and you take it out of the box and you have it in your hand, you say, that's my cigarette. All right? But if you're smoking it, it doesn't take il. Okay, so if it's in contact with you, it doesn't take il, but if it's in the box or you take it out and you have it in your fingers, it does take il. More of that, please. Now you're going to see chewing gum. Chewing gum is, look at that word. Isn't that ugly? You're about to throw up when you try to do those words. Do the next one, please. What do you know? My chewing gum doesn't take il, just like cigarette, because you have it inside of you. So when it's your chewing gum, it's already in your mouth. It doesn't take il. Next. It can take, lab would be the generic form. And if they do the next, please. If you have lab, now you can put il. But what you get is my chewing gum. But in fact, what you're saying is the chewing gum in general, or the zapote plant where you extract the chewing gum from. Okay. I would love to hear you stay there. I hope it's clear that one of the things that are happening is that if it's inside your mouth, if it belongs, it's already integrated into you, you don't put the il marker. But if you detach it from you, then you put the il marker. That's what's happening. And then you put the il marker on the plant or on the box of cigarettes. So as they gain individuation, as they are separated from you, then you put the il marker. I hate to be explaining, because what I love is for people to find out, because it's very It's a challenge, but it's a nice challenge. Now, when I was working with Don Joaquin, he said, let's go to bed looking to a woman. Imagine, that's a very offensive thing. And of course, he was inviting her to bed. Anyway, interestingly, in Wasa, you have two words for bed. You have waital, and you have, no, that's fine. That's fine. You're doing great. Great. And then they have che. Interestingly enough, okay, the contrast between those two beds is very nice. When you say watal is the bed where you sleep in and on normally, all right? But if you're sick, then you make a new bed that you don't use normally, and you just use it for sickness, and that's che, okay? Now, so if you're pregnant, for example, you make your bed and you sleep on that bed until the baby is born. Once the baby is born, the bed is taken out, and they don't burn it, they don't destroy it. They leave it out there in the country, and they let nature take care of it. Okay, but two very different beds. Interestingly enough, Waital doesn't take il. Che does take il. Okay? And thank you, that you were doing fine. This is the same for home. Kima is house, but in the sense of home, the inner one, and it doesn't take il. And then you can have another house, which is ata. And this ata thing is a house that you own, but it's not where you live. It's like if you have an extra home and then you rent it out or something, that would be ata. And you cannot say nana u ata in any way, with or without. We'll come back to that. You cannot use il, and you cannot use the possessive construction at all. You have to do something else. I'll tell you right now, because I already told you. You can, with ata, you can only use the verb ko'ol, the one we had seen before. So you can say, I have a house, but I have it. Since you don't live there, since it's not permanent, then you cannot use a possessive form. Okay? And then we had talked about this, Quayab, Cain, and Cain doesn't take il. Morral, which is the bag, the bag with which you carry all kinds of stuff, doesn't take il. And if you have a hat, sombrero, doesn't take il. There is no way you can picture a wastic without a cane and without a morral. They are part of their culture. So because they are working in the fields and in the countryside, so it's very common to have a cane. And of course, in your morral, you must have your drink, your alcoholic drink, of course, right? So you have your tequila there, and that's something you should never separate from. It's with you. So those things that are naturally part of you, that they part of your dominion, don't take il. It is the things that do not belong so clearly to you that can take the il marker to make it yours. But see, you make it yours. It doesn't belong to you. Whereas the other things are naturally related to you. Look at cotton. With cotton, you can have il. There is no problem with that. You can have my field of cotton, and if you notice now we have a new form. We have a kal form, which is new to us. And also, you can say, I have cotton in my hand, like right here. But with that, you would do it with ko'ol. So now we are in big trouble because you have il as a possessive marker. We have a new possessive form, which is kal. And then we have the verb to have, which is ko'ol. Okay, so they possess things in a different manner. Go to the next one, please. Okay, I asked when I was working with Don Vicente, I said, well, how about armadillo? Can I say, this is your armadillo? And he got mad at me. And he said, no. I said, why not? It's yours. No. Whose is it? It belongs to nature, he said. You cannot have it. But of course, okay, I understand that. With all due respect, I understand, but I would like to have it for an experiment for my study in the lab. Oh, okay. In the lab, you can have the armadillo. Yeah, so it's yours in that particular situation. And he said it with cal. He didn't say it with il. Okay, he used the second form, which we just saw. Oh, okay. Ooh, we have a problem here because I ask you, okay, Luciana, are you going to give me a lot of money? And she's going to say, no. Yeah, keep going. You can leave the good. Thank you. So that's, to mean is money. And to mean cannot be possessed with il. And it cannot be possessed with al either. Money goes, passes by. So with things that don't stay permanently, and of course money doesn't stay, for sure doesn't stay, you need the verb ko'ol. But for those things that can be part of us in a very strange manner, in a non-natural manner, you can have them with kal. Only those things that tend to be associated take il. And if they're naturally associated, they don't take anything. Okay, go to the next, please. All right. Let's see if that works, because we have here workers. So if I say my workers, like in the countryside, I have all these guys that are working for me, working in the fields and that, you can say, nanau tahanil, my workers. So I said, of course, if you have, I'm a doctor and I have a patient, he has to be my patient, right? That's what, we know doctors, they think they own us, and they treat us like, you do what I say, and these are powerful guys. Well, not in Wastic. In Wastic, you cannot say my patient. You cannot have il there. It would be ungrammatical. So what do you think? Think for a minute. Oh, she did it. Okay, look what. No, it makes sense. Now you can have it. I was going to make them think a little. How could you say my patient? And the way they do it is they use the verb ko'ol, because patients are not part of them. They're just transitory possessions. So transitory possessions are going to be done with the verb ko'ol, but not with the possessive, okay? However, workers that are under your control, yes, they do take il, because the notion is permanent. What you could never do is have workers without il. Okay? All right, next. This is a schematization just for you to suffer. What I'd like you to conceptualize is that when things belong into the dominion of the possessor, you don't put anything. Juxtaposition is sufficient because they are naturally related. Next. When things don't naturally belong to you, you get il. And il makes them part of you. So inalienables are there, but there is more to that. It's the possibility for things to relate to you that are not naturally related, that don't belong by nature. Next. You can have things with cal, like armadillos, like those situations that do not belong naturally, and that in fact, possessing them is a strange thing to do. And finally, what are we missing? Ko'ol, when things are temporary. They don't stay forever. They just happen. So the black line below the circle indicates for some period of time. So it so happens that the possessive system is not just a way to mark possession just like that, but it's a way to cut the world, to classify the world for things that belong naturally to you, for things that can be associated to you, for things that can be artificially, under very special circumstances, be related to you, and therefore things that happen but don't stay, they are transitory. So that's a nice case of possession. Next, please. We're almost done. Don't worry. We're almost done. You must be tired of listening to me. Now, Portuguese. What's Portuguese doing there? Please, can you do that? I wish I could see you. Could you please, if I say to you, levante a mão. Thank you. Thank you very much, Luciana. Levante a perna. I don't need to see that. That's fine. That's fine. But you did it well. Okay, next. Levante su mão. Is it really? It's strange, isn't it? Voy a levantar mi mano. Entonces yo levanto la mano y voy a levantar mi mano. So I think Portuguese could do the thing. The natural way to do it in Portuguese sería levante a mão, if I'm not wrong, or levante a perna. But then you can also say levante su mão, porque ya no, the mão is not moving, so you have to levant, and then you put the possessive form. So in other words, you put the possessive in Portuguese when it doesn't work, when you see it as something not being part of you. I think you guys speak Huastec. It's just like Huastec. So in other words, what you can see is that you don't put possessive if it naturally belongs to you and there is an internal relationship. But if you see it as separate and individuated out of you, you say levante su mão. Okay, next. But in English, you would say raise your hand. They just can't see anything. I mean, these guys don't distinguish anything. Next, raise your leg. And so for raise your leg, you can either do raise your hand like that or raise your hand like that, and they make no distinction. Okay? They would have to say something like, I raise my hand with my other hand. They would have to do a full construction to make it work. Whereas we have the contrast between things naturally related to us that don't take possessive. Levante la mano, levante a mão, levante la pierna, levante a perna. But then if you have the possessive, levante su pierna, is that because you pull it up and you do something with it. Next. There you are. Again, I don't know what's happening. Portuguese keeps popping up. Levante su mano, levante su perna. I would like to suggest that have this same conceptualization as in Spanish. It is probably true. Next, please. Okay, so getting back to our original question, we say my hand hurts in English with this idea that you have to possess, but it's like a separate thing. They can't use the possessive at all. They can say the hand hurts. We said that we say tequila makes my stomach sick, but it's tequila working on the stomach, and we have nothing to do with it but to possess the stomach as if it were a separate thing. Probably many of you guys listening to me are teachers of Portuguese, and you must have American students with you and say, and they're gonna say, my mouth, no? My mouth does something. Of course, they use the English concept of having things being possessed with no distinction on how they relate to us. Now, in beautiful languages, in civilized languages like ours, we make distinctions of how intimate things are, how much they relate to us, and how much they're separate. And then there are these, savages in the world that don't distinguish those kind of relationships. I'm kidding, of course. So we would say me duele la mano o duele a mão, o me duele a mão y duele mi mano. We never say that. I'm going to tell you a story, a lie. I'm lying. In Mexican Spanish, and probably in some parts of English, Brazilian Portuguese, there is something happening that I'd like to share with you. In Mexican Spanish, you can say, me duele mi manita. Okay, I don't think it's written there. It just came to mind. It's interesting that we say me duele mi, but mano, you don't say mano, you say manita, manichiña, if you want. And we're doing that. Yes, we're putting the possessive instead of the article, la. But we're doing it for very different reasons. What we're trying to do is to emphasize that it really hurts. Okay, so we can say, the normal way to say it is me duele la mano, but you can also do me duele mi manita. It really hurts. It really hurts. Okay, so the possessive is getting in Spanish, not to simply to emphasize how much this is hurting. Okay, next, please. We're almost done, don't worry. Maura Velasquez did a study on Spanish where she worked on Guarani, and Guarani has something quite similar to what we just did. But she noticed that in Spanish next one, there are strange usages, such as tiene la nariz aguileña, so he has an aquiline nose, like this. But another one, please. With talking about the pupils, this is from García Márquez, El coronel no tiene quien le escriba. And Germán lo penetró con sus pupilas. Okay, and then you have another one. So the Germán penetrated him with his pupils. And then you also have a thing like the colonel woke up later alarmed by his instantines, by the noise of the instantines. Now, interestingly enough, under those conditions, you could not use the article. You will have to use a possessive. Interesting, because when you simply describe his nose, you use it with the article, tiene la nariz. He has aquiline nose. But if the pupils are very significant, or they're working wrong, there is something the matter, like the instantines, making noises, signaling sickness, and so, then you use the possessive. So the possessive is used in Spanish to mark something that is not naturally related to us. And we use the article for things that are naturally related to us. This brings us to a conclusion, which is the following one. We speak Huastec. We're doing the same. So we're being very, very sensitive as to the kind of relationship we establish with respect to the world. So what we did with body parts in Maura Velasquez's example is that the nose is naturally related to you. Your instantines, of course, your guts are there. But if you make them prominent and they behave differently, then you put a possessive. So you take them out as if we were doing Huastec. So actually, the proposal would be that the possessive is a very sensitive grammatical part that delineates the way we establish our relationship with things in the world. And of course, there is cultural diversity. Cultures cut in different places. Each culture will determine what is internal, what is not internal, what is a matter of construal. And so probably for Spanish, hat and cane will never be part of us. But in Huastec, it is because it's crucial. We, in Spanish, we do have a contract, almost on, I said almost, hold it. I'm not that knowledgeable of Portuguese, but in Spanish, we have a distinction between house and home, right? So the house is just a building. Home is where our spirit lives. So it's natural for the home to be treated as very intimate, and the house is just a building. So the house will take il. And so what we do is not that things in the world are like there and you simply cut and every language will cut in the same place. No, it's culturally determined. There are general principles of that I will call this time a principle of intimacy. So depending on how intimate the relation is with the thing, will it get, if it's very intimate, it will get very little marking or no marking at all. And iconically speaking, as things separate from us, they start getting more and more marking. So Wastek is a nice example because it has 4 markers for possession. So you can see 4 ways in which the world is classified. One could say that possession is just a marker that relates the relationship established between a bigger guy and a smaller guy. That's it. So the bigger guy is the possessor and the smaller one is a possessed thing. But then the question is how natural the relation is between them. And that's going to vary from language to language. It doesn't vary crazily, notice. So you have insensitive languages such as English that simply put possessive whatever, very boring. And in contrast with that, you have languages that distinguish the way things relate to ego. And ego creates syntactic marking to see how their lives relate to the world. Speaking a language is permeating, grammaticalizing the way we see the world. That's why we need to learn languages, because our view will always improve as we have a different language being faced. That's it. Ahora sí, Kakalna ya. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I hope you were able to understand. I hate giving the answers. I hate it, but there was no other way. Thank you for your help, Diana.
Thank you, Ricardo. It was super nice talk. I love the examples. It was really, really nice. We are kind of late. I'm just checking here if you have a question. We have time for just a really small question if anyone has one. I was wondering, I will ask a question if I don't find any. Just let me see here. Yeah, I was wondering if you have noticed some diachronical change since this is possessive marker is so related to cultural things. So maybe people change the way they look to things. Something can be transitory now, and after it can be more. So that was what I was wondering if you have studied enough to see, for example, for elderly people, think that something is more related to them.
Yeah.
So this is my question, because it's really interested that how they. I did like when you say classify, because we have this kind of classifier in languages, and it seems that they are splitting the way they see these. So that would be my question.
That's an excellent question. It does happen in languages that the type of things that enter the possessive or leave the possessive construction keeps changing along the way. So that would be the case of a robe, dressing things. It's very common for dressing things to leave the possessive area and then some others to get in. Food tends to, for example, in Spanish, we can do things like you put salt, you put, to the meat, you put its salt. I'm doing it literally, right? Le pones su sal a la carne. Of course, that possessive, I don't, can you do that in Portuguese? Can you put, no, of course, you put salt on meat and that's it. But if it's the kind of thing that is characteristic of that meat, that is it makes it very meaningful, then you put the possessive to make it, it normally goes with a good piece of salt. So you have all these nuances that happen. What is interesting diachronically for Romance languages is the duplication of the possessive marker. In that I didn't say anything about that. So in Mexican Spanish, not only Mexican, in Spanish it's very common to say su casa de Juan. I don't think I need to translate that. It's interesting. Su tía de María, su mamá de Juan. So they do a double possessive, which came from the fact that it was third person. So when you say su, you don't know who the referent is, right? But so you have to say who that possessor is, and you say de Juan. Interestingly enough, is now being used to say things that are important. Su casa de Juan is like, it's a very nice thing that he has. So they gain meaning, and they normally go from, that's a diachronic thing. You can have an evolution from cold relationship of possession to make it meaningful. So it's never the other way around. It's never like, oh, how nice, and then you leave. No, it's an increase on subjectification, an increase of involvement that happens diachronically, never the other way around.
Never the loss. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Well, I think I have to finish. Unfortunately, it was really, really nice to hear from you. Many, I really enjoyed the examples, and I'm sure the students and professors watching like it too. So thank you again, Professor Ricardo, for talking this night. I'm now switch to Portuguese, and then we are have the closing remarks of our conference. So I think that Huda is going to make okay. Switch to Portuguese. Boa noite. Boa noite. Nós vamos passar, então, agora a palavra para os coordenadores da nossa pós-graduação, para o encerramento dos eventos de 4 semanas, né? Então, acho que a gente estabeleceu uma ordem. Fala primeiro a professora Silmara.
Boa noite, Luciana. Boa noite, professor Ricardo.
Boa noite.
Agradecemos, obrigada pela conferência.
Obrigado, né?
Que encerra esses nossos eventos, né? Nós estamos desde o dia 26 de outubro com esses nossos eventos, o 11º SAPIL, a 11ª Jornada de Estudos de Linguagem e o 2º Seminário de Egressos, que a gente está encerrando hoje, tendo o prazer de ouvir o professor Ricardo nesse encerramento. Então, agradeço muito. E a minha fala é muito breve, é somente para agradecer a todos mesmo que participaram, né, que fizeram junto com a gente esses nossos eventos ao longo dessas semanas aí. Então, agradecer a todos os nossos docentes do programa de pós-estudos de linguagem, aos nossos alunos e aos nossos egressos que fizeram esse evento conosco, né? Um agradecimento especial à comissão organizadora, então ao Ivo do Rosário, vice-coordenador e que presidiu a comissão organizadora, aos coordenadores de linha do nosso programa, a Luciana Sanches, coordenadora da linha 1, ao professor Felipe Marcel da Silva Esteves, coordenador da linha 2, ao professor Joel Windle, coordenador da linha 3, né, que nos ajudaram muito também nessa organização. Também agradecer a nossa equipe de alunos maravilhosos que trabalharam muito ao longo dessas 4 semanas, antes das 4 semanas, e que vão continuar trabalhando agora com as publicações, né? Então, o André Cavalcante, que está aqui com a gente, a Fernanda de Laia, a Fernanda Melo, a Giovana Maurício, a Letícia Monteiro de Barros e ao Rudá Perini, que está aqui nos auxiliando na técnica também nessa transmissão. Quero agradecer também a Heloíse, a Luciana e ao Gabriel, que são nossos estagiários, né? Fazem estágio com a gente na coordenação e que ajudaram muito na confecção de alguns cartazes e na divulgação dos nossos eventos também nas redes sociais, dando um apoio extra aí à equipe do SAPIL, né? E agradecer aqui na pessoa do professor Ricardo Maldonado, e estendo os meus agradecimentos a todos os palestrantes, né? Os professores, participantes externos que participaram com a gente como palestrantes e como debatedores também ao longo de todo o evento. Então, acho que a gente está encerrando com uma sensação de dever cumprido e muito felizes, né, com as trocas todas que a gente teve ao longo dessas 4 semanas. Então, só posso mesmo agradecer. E passo a palavra, então, para o Ivo.
Ok, uma boa noite, professor Ricardo. Obrigado pela conferência. Boa noite, Luciana, minha colega, coordenadora da linha 1, Silmara, coordenadora do nosso programa, André, representando aqui a comissão discente. Eu também vou soar um pouco repetitivo, né, mas a minha palavra é de gratidão pelo sucesso desse evento. Foi um mês, né, de atividades, e ao longo desse mês eu fui conversando com muita gente, né, perguntando como estava acontecendo, qual era a sensação, e eu só consegui colher coisas boas, bons testemunhos, né, de que as conversas foram muito edificantes, né, muita troca de experiências, enfim, foi um espaço de construção de conhecimento. Elaborar esse evento foi, de fato, um grande passo, né, porque vivendo esse momento de pandemia, precisávamos aproximar docentes, discentes e outros pesquisadores para as nossas discussões acadêmicas, e a partir da ideia bastante inovadora da nossa coordenadora Silmara, nós integramos 3 eventos em um. Então, nós tivemos o SAPIL, que é o Seminário dos Alunos, a GEL, a Jornada de Estudos de Linguagem, e o Seminário de Egressos, né? A gente carinhosamente chamou isso de 3 em 1, ou eventão, né? Era como nós fazíamos referência a esse evento. Então, eu acho que essa experiência vai marcar muito positivamente a história do nosso programa, que não parou, apesar das dificuldades advindas desse momento tão difícil. Então, quero agradecer muito ao Instituto de Letras, sempre muito parceiro, na pessoa das nossas diretoras. Um abraço muito especial à Silmara. É sempre muito bom trabalhar com você, Silmara, você sabe disso, pela sua competência, generosidade, proximidade, carinho, posso dizer. A todos os nossos alunos, né, nós costumamos dizer, e é verdade, esse seminário é de vocês. A gente entra, né, a coordenação do programa para dar um suporte, para dar uma ajuda, mas o seminário é dos nossos alunos. Então, parabéns a todos vocês que já foram citados aqui. Nós tivemos mais de 150 trabalhos apresentados, de iniciação científica, mestrado, doutorado, egressos. Nós fomos brindados com a fala de egressos convidados, pessoas que já estão desenvolvendo seus trabalhos em outras universidades e colégios e, enfim, em outros ambientes. 3 mesas da GEL, 2 conferências, com essa agora encerrando, e uma palavra aqui muito especial aos monitores, que fizeram um trabalho bastante discreto, silencioso, mas fundamental para o sucesso desse programa. Então, o nosso programa de pós-graduação em estudos de linguagem é um programa bastante atuante, pujante, e todos nós temos bastante honra de participar desse grupo, desse colegiado tão bacana. Muito obrigado a todos e aguardem as normas para a publicação dos e-books. Nós vamos coroar esse eventão, o nosso 3 em 1, com a publicação de 3 livros, de 3 e-books, livros eletrônicos, que vão compilar boa parte das discussões que nós travamos aqui ao longo desse mês de trabalho. Muito obrigado. A universidade é viva e atuante. Então, nós estamos aqui testemunhando isso. E eu passo a palavra ao André Cavalcante.
Oi, gente, boa noite a todos da mesa. Eu sou o André, eu sou do 4º ano do doutorado e também sou do 4º ano na comissão do SAPIL. E provavelmente no próximo ano eu já estarei no seminário de egressos. Eu queria dizer, só para finalizar, que quando a Silmara e o Igor trouxeram a proposta, foi um pouco assustadora para a gente da comissão, mas a gente encarou o desafio e o evento foi um super sucesso para todo mundo, eu acredito. E a gente só tem a agradecer todos os alunos da comissão, a Fernanda Lai, a Fernanda Mello, o Rudá, a Giovana, a Letícia, todos os monitores, os professores que participaram com a gente, os professores das mesas, e foi um evento muito, muito, muito produtivo para todo mundo. Só queria agradecer a todos. Boa noite.
Uma boa noite a todos e até o próximo, né?
Boa noite, gente.
Boa noite.
Obrigada.
Boa noite.
Obrigado.
Boa noite. Buenas noches.